Time is now 6 o'clock. We'll call the July 21st Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll begin with an invocation by Tim Bennett.
Let's bow our heads. Father, we come to you today. We thank you for your love, mercy, and grace. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. And Lord, we just pray that during a time in our nation when, Lord, it seems so much uncertainty, Lord, we know that we can put our trust in you. I pray that everything that we say and everything that we do tonight would bring glory to your name, to the individual, and to Dawson County. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have the roll call. All members of the Planning Commission are here with the exception of Jason Hamby. Are there any announcements that need to be made? Oh, there will be a Planning Commission meeting in August. That's the 18th of August. Next is approval of the minutes. I guess y'all have had a chance to read the minutes. I have a motion. Is there a motion to approve the minutes or? Second? Motion carries. Next, approval of the agenda. If there's no change that need to be made, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion carries. A statement of disclosure for any speakers in favor or in opposition to any application who have made more than $250 to contribution to any local campaign. There's a form that Harmony has. You'll need to fill that out if you plan to speak. Moving on to new business, have application for variance VR 20-10. Kevin Castleberry is requesting a side setback reduction from the required 20 feet to 13 feet for construction of his primary residence. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? If you would, state your name and write it on the piece of paper up on the podium. And address, please.
Kevin Castleberry. Been here and we come and got a variance once before for side setback on, from looking at the property on the right side. Sorry, was here once before, got a variance, if you're looking at the property, the right side of the property. Y'all approved that. When I gave my builder the piece of paper saying that it was approved, he took, the way he read it and the way it says is just says 5 feet from the property line. He shifted the house forward, and twisted it just a little bit, and then thus that put us too close on the other side of the property. So we're asking for a variance on that side of the property. It didn't get caught until he didn't catch it, and the bank actually caught it whenever we, sent in the survey, the foundation survey, and the bank caught it, and that's, we've been sitting waiting on it since, so.
Are there any questions for the applicant? No. All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of the application? If you would, write your name, state your name, and write your name and address on the podium, on the paper, please. Thank you.
Tommy Bruce, live 67 Morgan Lane, Dawsonville, Georgia. I have the adjoining land. I've got it up for sale right now. Not sure how it's going to affect, you know, I'm supposed to have a couple of people looking at it today, not sure how it's going to affect the selling of our property. But on this, you know, it said for the construction of primary residence, it's already dried in, so I mean, it's, you know, I was just wondering how come it wasn't caught with inspections, you know, footings of all the inspections that should have been there, you know, beforehand, that, you know, we've got to this point and the resident's already dried in. But that's all I've got, thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Jameson, is there a reason it wasn't caught?
The reason it wasn't caught up until that point, because no inspections were called in for the residents. So we generally do a site inspection, have them flag the corners of the property before they, or the corners of the structure before they start pouring the foundation. And that inspection wasn't called in, so it wasn't inspected.
Is that a required inspection?
It is.
Okay.
So pretty much the only recourse if the variance is not approved is the structure would have to be moved? Is that, am I looking at that correctly?
No, that's accurate. I mean,
Okay.
if this variance is not approved, obviously that structure is not permitted to be within the setback. It would have to be removed.
Whose responsibility is it to call in the inspection, the contractor or the owner?
The responsibility would fall on the structure, the application, the applicant to the residential building.
I have a question for can I ask?
Yeah, do you care to come back up to the podium?
I mean, this is a bad situation, but the situation is an inspection didn't get called in. Whose responsibility is that? Would that fall on you or the contractor you hired?
I guess it would fall on me. The permit's in my name. Nobody told me that there had to be an inspection done at that point.
Isn't that on the permit? Should say, state on there to call in?
All the inspections should be on the application, yes.
Right.
Any more questions for the
It
applicant?
wasn't on your paperwork to call in?
I don't know if it was or not.
It should be. Am I correct?
You're correct.
But you were given a variance for the other side?
Yes.
If the contractor would have built it correctly, would you have been able to put the home in as you wanted? Or is this a problem the way the house was put in? Is there a problem with what you requested originally to get the house put in as far as what you're needed from us? Or is it a problem about how the builder built the home?
The home was twisted, and I would say that was probably it when the builder twisted the home. There was a terrace row right there, and he twisted it a little bit to fit that terrace row. I guess, you know, make it lay in the land a little bit better.
So he didn't build it per plan? I'm trying to find out who's at fault. I mean, if your builder didn't build it per plan, that takes
I
the
mean,
burden off.
it's per the plan. I mean, he didn't change anything on the plans. The
Okay.
paperwork that I've got right here says 5 feet from the property line. It didn't say specifically which property line. What I got from there, from y'all's office, whenever we come and picked it up before, it said 5 feet from the property line. It didn't say north side, south side, east side, west side property line.
You have that piece of paper?
Yes, sir.
What was your original request?
The 5 feet off the property line on the, I guess, the north side. My parents'
So you
property.
knew where the 5 feet from the property line should have been?
Yes.
Which, you knew which property line you were requesting the variance
Yes.
for? Okay.
And you communicated that with your builder?
Yes.
Is there any more questions for the applicant? If you don't care, have a seat. Here's your. Since I'll let the applicant speak again, is there anyone else? I'd like to give them the opportunity to speak. Seeing none, is there any more discussion?
I mean, it's just an unfortunate, thing that happened, but, you know, I'd hate to make him tear down his house, so.
No. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the variance.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Vote here. The variance is approved. Moving on to VR 20-11, James Callis, on behalf of Keith Hopkins, is requesting a front, side, and rear setback reductions from the required 40, 10, and 20 feet for the construction of a primary residence. It's like it's in Athens Boat Club. Is there someone to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, sir, James Gallus.
If you would, write your name and address on the podium. Or on the paper, I forget to say the paper. Not necessarily the podium, that'd probably kill me if I had y'all
I'll
write
go
on the
ahead and vote
podium.
yay. Okay, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Athens Boat Club. I think a lot of people are, and the problem is that when the boat club was made, it's a leased property. There's no lines, so to speak. It was not developed as a subdivision, so there's basically no lot lines other than what the people went out at the time they started the boat club and basically said, okay, here's a pin here, and this is your lot. There was no zoning laws, there was no setback laws or anything. So a lot of these dwellings that were put in there were just set on the lot anywhere. And that has caused problems throughout the county, I know, because I've been dealing with it. I am a builder, and I know I've dealt with this several times. What we have is Mr. Hopkins' house is sitting too close to one property line, but we want to demolish that house and build a new home for him. By doing that, we will be moving the house away from one property line, which will make it a little further away from his closest neighbor, and but it puts him over a couple of other lines, the other three lines, one being the back line, one being the front line, and one being the left side line. And we have been to the environmental and have approval from the environmental health to build a new dwelling on the lot, and we're just wanting to do it the right, get everything approved before we knock his house down and try to get a permit.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, we'll close it to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion? I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries. Your variance for that one's approved. Moving on to VR 20 -12. Mr. Callis, on behalf of Robert Cicada, is requesting a front, side, and rear setback reduction from the required 40, 10, and 20 feet for the construction of a primary residence, also located in Athens Boat Club. I guess you're speaking again? Okay, that's okay.
Again, I'm not gonna go through the spiel about Athens Boat Club because I just went through it. This property is sitting to where we're just trying to get a variance on the areas that are already too close. The house property's been, or the dwelling's been there for, I don't know, probably 25 years or more. And, but what Mr. Sadaka wants to do is add a carport to the front. Right now, again, we've been through the county, and we do have approval for a septic tank approval on it. We want to take up some of the driveway that is there because he has a circular driveway, which would free up more property for the septic system, and do a straight-in driveway and put a carport out front, which encroaches the front building line.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion?
No.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the variance.
I'll second.
Motion carries. Next, we have VR 20-13. Russ Chambers is requesting front setback reduction from the required 40 feet to 13 feet for construction of a primary residence. Someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? If you would, state your name and write your name and address on the paper on the podium.
My name is Russ Chambers, and I'm the property owner, and I'll be speaking for this variance. The property was purchased with utilities already in place, and I would like to place my primary residence, which will be a mobile home, on the lot. I already have the septic permit, I have secured financing, I have everything in place. The only thing that I need is the variance on the front of the property. The trailer will set about 17 foot off the front property line. I've asked from this board, I believe 13 foot to give me some buffer room. I don't want to come back to y'all with another request, so I gave myself a few feet of buffer. The other corner of the trailer is roughly 20 to 30 foot off the line. So it will set caddy corner on the property. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to ask me, but that's my intentions is to.
Didn't I read that there was a trailer there and it burnt down or something? It was already graded out or something?
Whenever I was a teenager, I lived right next to the property and it burnt down. So yes, when I was younger, it burned down.
So it's already great, that's why you're
Yeah.
wanting the variance to not have to do any more grading or
County
anything?
water, septic. tank,
Everything's there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Power. All I have to do is go through this process.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries. Moving on to applications for rezoning. ZA 20-02, Paul Berman rezone TMP 094-136 from CB to RSR. Is there anyone here to speak for the applicant? And I apologize if I butcher some of y'all's names. I'm not too good at that, so.
No problem. I'm Paul Bierman. In 1991, my associate, Dr. James Bell, and I, along with Dr. Michelle Morrow, bought this 5 acres of property. It's on Highway 53 East, on the north side near the Dawsonville Veterinary Clinic, to build a medical dental complex. And the deal fell apart. We did have it at that time. It was zoned originally residential, and we had it rezoned to CCB. I bought the other participants' shares on the property. And for the last 6 years, I've been trying to sell it as commercial, and it hasn't sold. So I got another realtor involved, and they recommended having it become residential again to help with the sale. So that's why I'm requesting that it goes back to residential.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion?
No.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the rezoning.
I'll second it.
Motion carries. Do what? Yeah, it is a recommendation. This is just a recommending board. It will go before the Board of Commissioners. When is there, what meeting is that, do y'all know? Yep, August 20th. So you'll have to be at that one again. So all we do is make a recommendation to them on the rezonings. The variances, we have final say unless someone appeals those, so just to clarify that. Moving on to the next application for rezoning is ZA 20-03, Derek Perry to rezone TMP 111-105 from RSR to RA. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
My name's Eric Carter.
If you will, just write it on the paper and your address there too, please, sir.
My name's Derek Perry. I live at 73 Big Savannah Road. We have 7.5 acres. We've lived there for about 30 years. We want to rezone it from RSR to RA so that we could build a 2-bedroom, single-story house, caretaker's cottage for my daughter and granddaughter. It's a dual purpose. It's going to help her for a few years, and it will help us as we age, and having somebody next door to look after us. And we'd like to keep the 7.5 acres as just 7.5 acres. Just
Okay.
that.
All right, are there any questions for the applicant?
We've had the environmental people out, and they've approved it for a septic system and such like.
Okay. So y'all pretty much ready to,
And I submitted a bunch of drawings that I've done. you know.
yeah. And then just to kind of clarify, I guess you're having to rezone because the current zoning does not allow for the caretaker's
That's
cottage,
correct.
is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries. And this is, as I said on the other one, it's just a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, so you'll have to be at the August 20th meeting as well. The next rezoning application we're going to hear tonight is ZA 2004, Ronald Jones rezone of TMP 082-030-001 from RA to RSR. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, my name is Marcus Stowers. I'm the applicant's son-in-law. My father-in-law, he's actually back there. He's the one requesting the rezoning. Essentially, what's taken place is I had right at 26 acres, and originally when we zoned it, when I gifted him land to build a home, we zoned it, his was 11 acres on the 1-acre home site, and the remaining close to 15 acres was my property, and we had the intentions as it went further down the road to have it rezoned to a smaller 3-acre lot. At that time, now we want to do 2 acres, but we didn't know that the requirement was going to be 5 acres. Essentially, what takes place is his house is built about 1/3 of the way into the property. He built it with cash. It was free and clear. He wants to take a mortgage out on it. So rather than having unnecessary acreage tied up in that mortgage, we want to zone it to 2 acres permanently, which is what the original intention to gift him was. And then my land surrounds it on 3 sides. And then the only other property owner is on the south side of that. We share a land line with that. And there's only maybe 15 to 60 foot at any point between that property line and the road, so nothing could ever be built there. The land's essentially useless, and it's a complete slope down to Hauser Mill Road. The only person it really affects is me. But for all intents and purposes, he's gonna take out a couple $100,000 mortgage on an $800,000 piece of property between the house and the land. We just don't want to, we don't want to tie anything up with the bank. And then the only other home site on there is on the back of the property, which I'll build on one day. But we're gonna fence it all in, so if you went up to the property and saw it, it'd look like one piece of property with 2 homes on 26 acres.
Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries. Once again, this is just a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, so you'll have to appear before them in their August 20th meeting. Next on the agenda is letter K, public hearings. Have item number 1 is presentation of planning commission terms.
Thank you. So the planning commission's terms is up for everyone on the current planning commission is up for renewal on December 31st of this year. That was never the intention. We were supposed to stagger them. This resolution is really trying to update that to where District 1 and District 3 is going to be extended only for 1 year. So they will come up next year, and then the following 3 will come up on the 2-year. They'll go back to the 2-year cycle. So what we don't want is all 5 planning commissioners to have their terms to come up the same year. So we're trying to re-stagger that. I'm not really sure where that got off track. I just know that it needed to be fixed, so this is just housekeeping.
Okay. Thank you. So you need from us just to vote to move this through, if we're good with it, or is that? Okay, okay. Yeah. Is there anyone to speak, do we do in favor, or is anyone to speak in favor of the, of this, planning term, the planning commission terms? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of a public hearing for the planning commission terms? Seeing none, I'll close it to the board for discussion. Any discussion?
So do you need any action from us?
Yeah, I think,
I would like a recommendation.
yeah, we'll have to.
Okay.
I recommend to approve. It makes sense that, so it doesn't, everybody come up at the same time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion carries, and this is the same as the rezonings. This is just a recommendation. It will be heard. Will be heard at the same August 6th meeting? The August 6th meeting of the Board of Commissioners for their final vote. The next on the public hearing is a presentation of land use resolution update. Jameson, I guess you're doing that too? Okay.
I'll let Harmony click through the slides here. So, as y'all know, we've been working on our land use resolution update for quite a long time. The last one came before y'all in December, which we updated all of our residential classifications, and we made that nice little chart that's really helped out planning and development as well as the citizens. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from that check mark. This originally was just supposed to be an update to the commercial side of things, which obviously got pushed back and kicked back because of COVID and the lack of public hearings. But we, through the last 6 months, we really had a lot of conversations around other portions of the residential classifications, and so we just included those into this update as well. So the first thing is we are updating a small portion of section 312-7A. And on the slide, I've highlighted in red exactly what we are updating. So we have a lot of wedding venues and event facilities. We have quite a few of those in the county. We will need to update all of our ordinances to adjust for these types of events and allow them to sell alcohol at these events. So the Board of Commissioners decided that it was not a good idea to put it in our business license ordinance, and it was a better idea to put it here, which we might see further things come with that, but as of right now, we're just adding it to say added value agricultural products or activities such as educational tours, wedding venues, and similar special event facilities with a minimum of 15 acres and/or processing facilities. Wedding venues and similar event facilities may sell and serve alcohol provided an appropriate alcohol license is held by the property owner, or the alcohol is served in accordance with the catering requirements and a valid caterer's license. Now, along this with the Board of Commissioners, we are updating our alcohol ordinance to update our language of alcohol caterers and who is a caterer, because honestly, it only limited to certain places that had alcohol licenses and they had to be located in Dawson County. So now these event facilities and these wedding venues can bring in caterers from outside the county, and they can get business licenses to operate inside the county. So that's a very important update for that. The second part of the residential updates is a new residential zoning classification, and we are calling this the Residential Agricultural Corrective. And this is created for parcels currently zoned RA that are between 1.5 and 5 acres that are deeded and not platted. So that's important because when you come in for a building permit, we require you to have a platted piece of property, and that platted has to be recorded downstairs with the clerk of courts. Right. Well, come to find out, we have several of the properties that are RA that have deeds, but they don't have plats yet. And if they come to Harmony and they submit their plat, it's less than 5 acres, so it doesn't meet the minimum requirements to be recorded. So we were running into those issues. We did narrow it down to about 55 parcels that this would be applicable to. So we're creating this for those that the chairman says that are caught in the net. And we're allowing them to come in and rezone those to this corrective zoning classification for these purposes. With that, we've also updated the charts that have gone along with it to include RAC and try to update it and make it a little simpler for people to understand that if you subdivide in residential agriculture, that it's required 5 acres.
Can I ask you a question, Jameson?
Absolutely.
Before we move on? So if they come in to rezone, will they be required to pay to rezone? I mean, what if these parcels were created before? When did the 5 acres start?
The 5 acres started when zoning started in 1986. So it's not necessarily, so let's take a step back. We blanketed the entire county with this residential agricultural classification, and then we chose which ones that wouldn't be, right? By doing that, we created a lot of parcels that were not in compliance with the 5 acre rule that was intended for the agricultural classification. So my answer to that would be, if you're currently residing on a property that has a building structure on it, a residential building structure on it, then you're essentially, for lack of a better term, grandfathered. I know zoning people don't like to say the word grandfather because there's a lot of connotation with that, but you're grandfathered in. So like I said, if you can prove that it's platted, which means it was probably platted before zoning or since, that, in our opinion, with the planning department, then you're good to go. You can build on any platted piece of property. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So somebody, though, that didn't have, you had a parcel that was deeded, you had 2 acres, and you wanted to build a house on it, you would have to pay to get it rezoned to this.
Right. What brought this about was there were several people that had pieces of property. They had 2 acres, right? And we wouldn't accept a building application because they didn't have a deeded or a recorded plat with the clerk of courts downstairs. And that is a requirement for a building permit. So there were some people that it almost made a few properties unbuildable. And anytime you have zoning, and you blanket an entire area like we did, you're going to have properties that are unbuildable. And this is a corrective zoning class to try to facilitate some of those.
So this allows those properties to be buildable
Yes.
because it basically equals, the plat will equal the deed.
Yes.
Were any of those properties deeded before zoning.
Quite possibly.
So, I mean, why should those people have to pay to have it rezoned?
And that is an excellent point. We kind of blanketed it as a residential agriculture zoning classification. So we're going to, the payment would be $100 for the rezoning application. And that's merely just to cover the paperwork for my office. But I definitely understand what you're saying, and we can, if you want to include that in a motion, we'll definitely present that before the Board of Commissioners and have them consider that.
I was just wondering why the county didn't just rezone them. Well, I guess they couldn't do it without the property owners. I mean, could they rezone to this new one without?
So we could, I was able to narrow it down to about 55 lots, right, or 55 parcels. We could do a county rezoning and rezone all of these properties, but there are multiple reasons to split properties for different reasons, and all of them might not want to rezone that. We don't want to start down a road that we don't want to go down. We just want to have the ability for people to come in and offer this as a service.
Have you reached out to these 55 people, though, and informed them of this? Have we contacted them, or?
We haven't. This has actually just come about in the last couple weeks. So
Yeah.
we do have several of them that want to rezone to this today. So I'm sure that on August 6th, when this goes before the Board of Commissioners, that we'll probably have some applications absolutely the next day.
So approval of this will give them an option they currently don't have.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it still doesn't change anything about the future. If you want to cut down to less than 5 acres in RA, that's still not gonna be allowed after this is
Correct.
passed. Okay. All right.
So this is just the deeded plats that kind of, like he said, got caught in the net supposedly.
Right. I think that's gonna be another issue too, because I know that's come up a lot, is the 2 acres being,
Well, they got to do it.
well, they got to do it, so I don't know.
But there'll
that may
be
something we'll have
verbiage
to-
in there to explain why they got to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Any more questions?
All right. Well, we are moving on to the commercial zoning updates, which I must say that I'm very excited to see this come through fruition, because we have worked on this quite a lot. We reformatted the entire commercial portion of our land use resolution, basically to match, resemble what that is in our residential portion. So we created these charts, and these charts not only, they give you the NAICS codes. Now, those are the codes that my business license technician looks at and says, are you properly zoned for this type of business? And if you have that, and that's on all of the state forms that each business has. So if they want to know if they're coming in the county, they want to know exactly what. We're trying to take the guesswork out of it. Now, we've blanketed, there's several different layers of businesses, so we kind of blanketed at a high level. That way everything underneath it would fall into it. But this will be extremely helpful, not only for us, but to businesses that want to come into the county. We also added a new classification. What we have is as you know before, even in residential, we had nothing between an acre and 5 per acre residential lots. We kind of got a similar situation in commercial. We have what we call commercial highway business, which is an extremely broad umbrella that a lot of things are falling into. It's anywhere from a meat and three mom and pop, restaurant, all the way to some sort of boat storage place that you have, or a junkyard. So like we were trying to separate those things out, and as we plan for the future and the future growth that's coming to this county, we need to have a classification between CHB and commercial industrial. And so we come up with this commercial highway business intensive commercial classification, or CHI, for this exact purposes. And if you go through the charts and you look at the CHI category, It's basically a lot of the commercial properties where you're gonna have large trucks come in and out. We included our junkyards and our boat storage places and our, landscaping, where you're gonna have trucks with trailers coming in and out. Things you don't necessarily want are ideal for right on 400. So when, right on 400, we're going to encourage commercial highway business, which is those businesses that attract people. And then as we move away from commercial highway, that's where we want our commercial industrial and start targeting areas for this highway intensive use right off of there. And then obviously, we want to feather those things out into the communities. But we need a classification to specifically target those, because if you don't plan for it to be there, then obviously it'll go anywhere. So we want to try to break that up. And I'll answer any questions that you have about that.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the land resolution update? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the land resolution update? If you would come to the podium and state your name and write your name and address on the paper there, please.
Maria Wilson. So on several different issues, you're going through a lot of different layers here that you're blanketing, talking about residential, commercial, and agricultural. So I'll try to break it down with each section that you have. How does that affect people's taxes, especially in the commercial, when you come in and feather it out? If you have mom and pops and small businesses, storage facilities, and you decide that they are part of the commercial highway, are you going to be boosting up their taxes on a small business like storage, paying on the commercial highway? So is that also tax related, the way that is going?
I don't think,
Do you want me, I mean, I don't mind.
if you don't mind, yeah, just real quick, if
Oh,
you don't
absolutely.
care.
So taxes, zoning and taxes are very separate. I know that, so we are not looking to rezone any property with this land use resolution update. We're just looking to create a new zoning classification to have the ability to plan where.
What types of businesses go in which section?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then on the issue with the wedding venues, and of course, we own a wedding venue, and we are on a farm. So it says you have to have 15 acres, right? It also, the way we're seeing this is you're not giving us any option to be a farm venue that doesn't serve alcohol. It seems like this permitting that you're wanting to push venues into is so that you can classify them as special events with a license to serve alcohol. And that is a big licensing and a big liability. So there is no option here to say that we can be a farm wedding venue. I think there are different classifications on venues. You have inside city limits, commercial, those that have catering kitchens, and those that don't have kitchens. There are different classifications, and to bundle everyone into one classification is not how it needs to be handled. As well, you have the issue where if you force a venue who is acting within their land conservation rights and following CUVA and what CUVA allows, and it clearly states that the county cannot make laws stronger than what is in the CUVA, you are essentially saying that we cannot do weddings. So weddings are allowed in agricultural business. So there needs to be a distinction when you have a farm with 100 acres or more that is doing farm and doing exactly what the CUVA says they're allowed to do. And now you're pushing this business license on a farm. So farms have never had to have business licenses with the county. So I would like to understand more why we're forcing them to have business licenses and to go into special events business licensing.
Just
If I may.
real quick, if you can.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, we're not requiring any of the wedding venues to have to sell or have to sell alcohol. We are merely just making it an option in that zoning classification. So right now, under our alcohol ordinance, it says no alcohol distribution or sale in anything other than a commercial district. So we're updating that, and then also we want to clarify that and make sure that that is available to these wedding venues if they so choose.
And if they so choose, they've got to go through a permitting process, I guess, for a pouring license, just like you would anything else. So all this is to allow a wedding venue to sell alcohol if they wish to.
If they wish to, absolutely.
It's not requiring it.
Right, and as far as our business license ordinance, we're not looking to update our business license ordinance at all. You know, we just look at what is exempt from business licenses, which would be your farms and your agricultural uses, but hosting events and weddings is not something that is currently exempt from our business license ordinance.
Would this make it exempt from the ordinance, or what is the intent for?
The intent with this particular is so we're giving it a little more flexibility.
So it should.
So these wedding venues and similar event facilities, because we realize that a lot of these facilities are having a lot of other things other than weddings, but it goes back to, as long as it is an agricultural use, that it is permissible in RA.
All right, thank you.
So as long as it's following and doing as CUVA says it's allowed to do and grandfathered in going back to doing business as a farm and carrying activities, as long as the farm has been openly doing activities. as a farm.
I'd have to talk to, as far as the.
These are all new wedding laws, so when we come into you and you say there's no laws, and then you come back and say, well, now there's laws. I just want to understand when I'm being told now I have to come up to code, when before there was no code. You're making a lot of codes really quickly and then telling farmers they now have to have business licenses, special licenses. I understand the special events, which we've been through that process for those individual activities that require them. They could get individual permits and not a business permit to do those kind of
And
activities.
it sounds like that's something that may have to be addressed, maybe better addressed with a meeting with the planning department or something, because all we're really discussing here is the update to the land use resolution. So it's not, it's hopefully to give an option for those wedding venues that want to serve alcohol where they can. And that's pretty much what I'm seeing in it, unless I'm reading something wrong. So there may-
Everything we're getting handed to us, I'm just going over everything
Yeah.
I've been handed to me by Jameson.
Yeah, well, I know that's something that, you know, that's gonna be ongoing,
But
but it's,
there's nothing stating, hey, if you're doing this, you're fine. Like, if you've been a farm, you've been farming
Right.
all your years, your CUVA says you're allowed to do
yeah,
this.
well, that is
free.
not listed in the,
So I think it needs to be clarified, the
Right.
difference between a farm venue and a person buying a farm and establishing a venue.
okay,
Well,
thank
does
you.
does that come back to the 50% of gross receipts?
That's
Jameson?
all
Do you
new.
want me to read that portion of it?
Yeah,
So number 7, section 312, number 7, in the land use resolution says, an agricultural farm operations may include any or all of the following agriculturally related uses and some non-agriculturally related uses, so long as the general character of the farm is maintained and the activities represent less than 50% of the gross receipts of the farm. So that right there entailed, and we were updating letter A of that underneath that, that statement. That entails that it is we allow for wedding venues and other similar events in agricultural in nature, but we require it to be a farm first, and we're gonna require, proof that 50% of the receipts that will come from the farm operation.
But that's existing code, right?
That's existing code. We're not looking to update or change that at all.
And they just did that one back in December. So what you're saying is that all farms now need to report all their income to you to prove exactly what that 50% is? So you're gonna go across the board with that and say, all farms, I need you to now show your income, which is very, right to farm goes against that. So farmers have a lot of rights. I feel like you're really infringing on that by saying, we want all you farms, if you're selling in a small produce amount, whatever, now we need to see all your receipts.
I don't think that's something that that they're looking to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
how
would be-
would you know, and how else would you know?
It sounds like you want to, I mean, you're looking to modify something that's not being discussed tonight, which is fine. You might want to take that up with the Board of Commissioners.
Well, I just want to
Because we
understand
can't,
more.
I mean, I don't think, we can't change, or, well, I mean, I guess we could recommend a change to it, but.
Well, I want to understand how you determine somebody's at 50% or more and do it in a fair way. Are you asking everybody to turn in their income as a farm?
Is that
Or are
something
you
that's
just
being-
going to pick and choose who you want to do that to?
Is that something that you've been doing?
No, this is, so that was added to our land use resolution, multiple years ago, and has been, it's always been in there as far as my tenure here.
I mean, are you actually requiring it when people?
We haven't required it of anybody as of yet.
So it sounds like it's something that's been in there, but if it needs to be removed, I would,
Just trying to understand, I keep having the fire marshal show up at my door, and lots of people show up at my door, and
well, no, I don't think.
And making
that's not-
acquisition,
Yeah, that's not
they're-
anything that's for issue with this board.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
fire-
saying when
But do you
they're
have any
coming
other
and
new
representing the county and
comments to make on any
saying,
of the other ones? I want to try to move the meeting
understood.
along if you don't care, so,
That was my main point. I'll let somebody else ask questions.
all right, thank you.
I don't think the fire marshal is, I mean, nobody's over them except what, the state fire marshal, is that right?
Yeah.
They showed up with the planning.
Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? And if you can, try to make your comments as brief where we can get everyone heard.
One question, this should be about the commercial only. We done been through the process, I think, of the first part. Am I correct?
No, this is both.
This is both, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we already asked for this one time.
Mm-mm.
My name is Layland Anderson. I'm 70 years old, and I'm watching this right here. And I'm also a minister of the gospel. And one quote in the Bible, it says, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And what I'm seeing is an outreach of what he's doing. I could watch him up here, and he's just back and forth. It's like he's at a smorgasbord trying to get something for this and something for that where we can make more money for the county. What problems are you trying to solve with these new ordinances? What are they for? I've been here most of my life, and I just don't see the point in it. Let me, you gave me 2 or 3 minutes to talk. You know, back when Hitler took over, the first thing he done was took the guns away. And the people were just completely oppressed. I'm seeing zoning ordinances, and over and over and over and over in this whole conversation. They're wanting to tell somebody how to run their wedding venue. They're wanting to tell me that I've got to report this and that and t'other. When it's none of the county's business, I pay my taxes. It's none of their business that what I make. And I've got 500,000 chickens, almost 500,000 chickens. That every time you go to the store, you get my chicken. Every time you go to Panera, every time you go to Chipotle, Kroger, you get my chicken. Is it going to get to the point that, and I'm not trying to be ugly. Like I said, I'm a minister. But when I preach, I don't lay down ordinances. You got to dress like this, you got to walk like this, you got to look like this in order to listen to me. I think we've got enough. And like the thing that I'm trying to get to you is, what problems are you trying to solve by putting more ordinances on everything that we've got? I've been in Dawson County a long, long time, and I'm just watching it slowly be eaten away. All of our rights, everything we try to do. I mean, I've been hit, I've been sued. I don't know how many times by people that move in, and I've got chicken houses. I've got 10 chicken houses. And I know the smell. I know this. I've had people sue me because of the fact that they move in here from out of the county, from Atlanta basically, and come in and try to shut me down. And I got $2 million invested in it. So, you know, I'd like to see what your answer is on that. What problems are you trying to solve by putting so many ordinances on everything we do? Even 5 or 6 years ago, I know y'all remember, 5 or 6, 8, 9 years ago, they tried to put an ordinance on us. We drilled the wells, and we voted against it. We drilled the wells. They come in and put a meter on it, and we got to pay them a meter tax to drink water out of the ground of Dawson County. You remember that. I know you all do. But what are you trying to solve, and what problems are you trying to solve with this? I'm asking you.
Can I speak to that? Because I think that I agree with you a lot, but some of these things are actually making it less restrictive. They're not like the people that have a deeded piece of property that's 2 acres right now, they can't build a house on it. This would allow them to do that.
But some of it's not. Some of it's okay.
Well,
But
other,
it's all in a blanket thing. I mean, that's like the Congress tries to put in a thing, and they put in everything that don't have anything to do with COVID.
yeah. I mean, if you look though, like I said, I agree completely with what you're saying. We have this ordinance now though. The question is, do we want to make it less restrictive or more? I think some of these changes, or all of them I'm seeing, are making it less restrictive. You know, the thing she was bringing up has been in there for years. Maybe that needs to be taken out, but that's not what's under consideration right now. The one is, to give people the option to sell alcohol at the wedding venues. That makes it less restrictive. The people with less than 5 acres, that makes it less restrictive. Add an additional highway zoning classification, that just gives people another option. So I think these changes make it less restrictive.
Why don't you split it up and put the ones that's less restrictive on it, and do away with the ones where
Let's
it's
try
just more
to
restrictive?
move on and just keep it to the your thoughts. I appreciate you speaking tonight. Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition? I'll get you. If you would state your name and write your name and address on the paper.
Yes, I'm Shirley Sharella, and I'm new to Georgia. I'm from Alabama, just real recent. But your 5-acre zoning ordinances, I don't really understand those. Could you kind of explain what those are?
Really, right now, we've answered a few questions, but I'm gonna try
You
to,
did?
for expediency, to to move on. Unless you've got like a quick answer to that, I don't, because it's, what it is, it's the residential agriculture is, you have to have a 5-acre lot to build on the way the current ordinance is now. And what we're changing is there's some lots that are in there that are smaller than that. So we're gonna allow them to be built on those if they were done before this ordinance. If it were to pass the commission, they would be able to build on them, which it still doesn't allow you to build on anything under 5 acres, which may be something that has to be addressed in the future.
Okay, that sounds good. I really
Okay.
like that.
All
But one question I have for you is the animals. Is there some ordinance about how many animals, what kind of animals, and that sort of thing that you can have? And how many acres you have to have before you're allowed to have those animals?
I don't know about that. That would probably be something, if you wouldn't mind, to follow up with a call to planning and zoning, and they could answer all those questions for you. I don't have anything, I don't have the ordinance book in front of me, and I don't want to have to ask Jameson to try to quote it from memory, so.
Okay, so,
If I may,
Yeah, if you- if you-
I do know just off the top of my head, like, there are certain requirements for, I think it's at least 1 acre or 2 acres per horse if you have a horse. 3 acres is what I'm told. But other than that, there aren't any restrictions on animals other than our other ordinances regarding, like our animal control ordinance.
okay, is there some place where I can go and look those ordinances up?
Absolutely. The best place to look for our ordinances is going to be on the planning portion of our Dawson County website. Or feel free to step in my office and I'll print them out and I'll give them to you.
That would be great. Okay, I can do that after the meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am. If you will, state your name and write it on the paper. I've said that 1,000 times.
My name is Kathy Waddell, and what else did you need from me?
Just your address on the,
Paper?
yeah, yes, ma'am.
I wasn't intending on speaking tonight. I was here in support of a friend who's going through some situations within this land use. But a point you brought up, I was really not aware of the alcohol portion of your land use. That brings a huge problem for my business. I've been here for 21 years. I'm not a farm, but I own 20 acres off of Highway 9 South. Built my house there. Own a commercial kitchen, which caters off-site. I don't have a venue. I cater off-site pretty much only in Dawson County. I'll reach out every now and again, but I'm a Dawson County resident and I like to do my business here. Your alcohol ordinance is what it, I guess, will be called, allowing venues to get business or a alcohol license to sell alcohol is fine. If that's what the venues want to do, that's their business, that's not mine. My problem comes in when, and that's an expensive request on your part to make them do that. Most of our weddings, the brides, they don't want to come to a place where they've got to pay for a $10 drink and their guests have to pay that much. We don't have the demographics in Dawson County, and we're not bringing in people that have a lot of money to do these weddings. Our weddings are low on the scale of what people spend on weddings in Atlanta, maybe a quarter. If that, we have a lot of what I call DIY weddings. We have it where the bride wants to come in. She just wants to get married, have her family and friends there, bring maybe a little beer and wine, and it's served from, the licensed bartender that we do make sure is there for the venues. And then everybody's happy. We don't see a lot of DUIs, I don't believe, in this county from anybody drinking and driving and leaving our weddings, because we have security guards there who take care of situations and don't allow people to get intoxicated enough to drive and drink. And we also have procedures in place at these venues to make sure that people get safely out of our county. But people do come from out of the county here to do weddings because it's beautiful, so we like that. I like having a business here in Dawson County where I have the option to cater where I want to. Your ordinance for alcohol, making these venues get an alcohol license, somewhat limits my ability to do business in this county. If I have to get a permit, a liquor license, to serve alcohol at weddings, I'm not going to do it. I don't want the liability. I don't want the insurance. I don't want to deal with, I don't drink. I don't really, have a use for that. It's not my business. That's what they want to do, that's fine. But I'm not going to go get an alcohol license to cater. I just want to cater. So what you're going to do by enforcing either the venues to get a license or the caterers, which is what's going to happen, to have the license, I won't be able to serve at weddings. I won't be able to serve my food, which I've done for 21 years in Dawson County. There will be caterers from Alpharetta, Atlanta, Marietta, Woodstock, Ackworth, all of my competition that I fight on a daily basis. They will be coming up here and taking my business from me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am. If you would, state your name and write your name and address on the paper at the podium.
Okay. I'm mostly disappointed in this process that we've done. I asked at the Board of Commissioners meeting for Jameson about how to review this new land use, so I could kind of skim through it and see it. And he told me it would be there Thursday night or Friday morning. I looked Thursday night, I looked Friday morning, looked Friday night, Saturday. Finally, somebody, I think on Sunday, posted it on Facebook, a link to it. Still don't know where it is on the website. And as I come to find out by being here, the only portion I saw was about the first part that they talked about with the residential, with the under 5 acres.
Yes.
And even just with reading that, it was sloppily done. If you look at page 2, RACB, which should be D, because above there you have B and C, and on the next page you have B again. And it says number 3 is an incomplete sentence, including but not limited to what? It doesn't, at least what I read, but that was the only thing I could find. And on page 42, the highlighted column on the chart is for RRE, not RAC, which is what you're trying to change or add in. As for all the rest of it, I really didn't have the time to read through it between work and home and whatnot. So I don't really know how I feel about any of it, and I didn't even get any of the commercial side on the thing that I pulled up. And the public comment link wasn't working at 3:45 today. When I tried to do that, it came up with a 404 error on the website, so I'm here now. So just kind of disappointed in the way all this is going. It seems like you're trying to keep the information from the people. We knew about this for 2 weeks. They had to advertise for 2 weeks, and we get it 2 days before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in opposition?
I have a question.
If you could, you'll have to come to the podium and state your name and write your name on the
My name is Amber Anderson, and like the lady before me, I just found out a few days ago as well, and everything that I had read had just been residential. My family lives on 5 acres, thankfully, so we, I guess, don't really have anything to worry about, but what if we move? And we have chickens and a donkey and a horse, and what if we move to somewhere that isn't 5 acres? Are we still gonna be able to do what we're doing now? Are we still gonna be able to keep all of our animals and do everything we're doing? If we have a yard sale, are we gonna have to have a permit or a license for that? Like, what exactly is going on with the residential side of all of this?
It's basically, there's been some properties that have been, less than 5 acres. And there's been people trying to build on them, and they can't because the way the land use resolution reads is it's supposed to have more than 5 acres or more to build on a residential agricultural zoning, to build a dwelling. And this is just going to fix those in the past that have happened. It shouldn't affect anything, you know, that you have now. It would be, if you were to move, it would just depend on what zoning you move to as to what the,
Okay, well, what about the yard sale question? Am I gonna have to have a permit or a license? What about a gathering that I've read that I'm gonna have to need a permit or a license for?
I don't think, we don't do anything.
Well, this won't change, whatever it is now, will
Yeah.
stay the same, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now. I don't know what
I
the
don't know what it is now either.
ordinance is now. Do you,
So that's,
I hate to put
That's
Jameson
not-
on the spot because he don't have everything in.
no, that's fine.
Front of him.
Well, I mean, that's not really relative, like, none of.
None of that is in this.
Is in regards to this particular update.
Everything that I read was for tonight and at 6 o'clock. That's why I'm here.
You know, there's nothing in here about yard sales or.
So any type of business transaction, that would be handled through our business license ordinance and not our,
That's what I'm talking
and
about.
not
It would be
our
a business
land use
thing because
resolution.
I'm handling money from other people. That's a customer business kind of thing. So do I have to have a license or a permit to do a yard sale?
No, you would not.
Ever? Or as of right now, that's not?
So the only thing that it talks about, and if I may, this is
Yeah.
off topic from what the land use resolution update. The only place it talks about yard sales in our business license ordinance is about community yard sales, and that's where you have one piece of property that has a lot of things, and you have multiple people come and they sell on one piece of property. And basically that's what that's for, but nowhere in our business license ordinance does it refer to any type of individual yard sales. And I would say that wouldn't even apply to community yard sales. While it says community yard sales, that wouldn't actually apply to, you know, a community yard sale, which each individual house has their own, you know, garage or yard sale. It's just a lot of people in one location, which would trip that business license. And
So community yard sale, like a neighborhood yard sale, that doesn't qualify.
that wouldn't qualify.
You're talking about the neighborhood getting together on one piece of property.
So we've had these, we've had a couple of these in past, especially on church properties in which, you know, a lot of members would come and they would use the parking lot and they would set up tents and they would sell on theirs. And
Like our church does?
Right.
For church camp?
yeah,
That's
and if
what
you're
our
doing that,
money is
it would
going
be,
towards.
it would, and what we would really want to know is the specifics, the ins and outs of it. And it's for, you know, for the fire department to check life safety, the people, we're not taxing the event, but we are reviewing the event through Public Works and all of the different departments in the county that could potentially be involved.
But there's nothing in here that changes any of that
Okay.
tonight, either more restrictive or less restrictive. That's something that's been on the books for a long time, as far as I can remember. Like, those ordinance hasn't been changed.
As far as I know, it's the same, written the same way since it's been since 2001.
Yeah.
But, and that's just off the top of my head. I don't.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know
that
exactly
really,
when that was
there's
updated.
nothing more restrictive or less restrictive that we're discussing tonight.
So now my
On that.
church, whenever we have our yearly yard sale for our church camp in August, they are now going to have a permit. Because multiple people, every single one of us, we donate a lot of our stuff so we can sell it for church
But
can
you
have.
still just have one entity, the church, is selling it, so you're not, I don't know. That's something that you would have to look at. And again, that's something that's been on the books for 20 years. It's not something that's changing or that's gonna just be,
We've not had to have permission
Yeah.
before.
So nothing's changing with that and what we're discussing tonight, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Yes.
I just got a quick question. My name's Joe Anderson. Under the residential agricultural corrective, from 1.5 to 5 acres, prohibited uses, one of the prohibited uses is raising and caring for livestock is expressly prohibited. I think that's what everybody's talking about. Can y'all clarify that?
So this has been before, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Am
you go ahead. No, I was gonna see if you would.
Sure.
So.
So this has been before the Board of Commissioners multiple times, and what they wanted to do was to say, hey, listen, if you have 1.5 acres, the intention there was that you don't have, there's 60 cows on 1.5 acres of land, which, and this provision would not be for any type of someone that's, having, a chicken house or anything like that. I know I've received a couple of questions about those. It wouldn't restrict any of those. It would restrict having a farm operation as far as raising cattle and raising things of that nature.
Yeah, the wordage is caring or raising and caring for livestock is expressly prohibited. So, I mean, if they had one, it would prohibit them from having one, right?
It wouldn't prevent from having like pets if that's the nature.
No,
'cause I know-
livestock. I'm talking about cows. If they had one cow, one donkey.
Right.
But it would prohibit them from having one livestock, whatever you consider as livestock, which would be a cow, a pig. Correct.
I understand that.
Well, the
And
wordage
that's-
is raising and
absolutely
caring
something
for
that the board
livestock
could-
is
the-
expressly
The
prohibited.
planning commission could recommend being altered at this point.
Okay. Is that it, or you got
That's
anything?
the
All right.
questions and livestock.
All right, thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition?
I have comments that were submitted
Okay.
via online to read, so. The first is from Lisa Glover. She is from Dawsonville. Her comment is, I count 22+ land use districts, each with pages of regulation for farms. The regulation terminology is so strict, a farmer's market structure is specified as no larger than 500 square feet. First, we need to answer the question, who owns the farm? The next regulation that stands out as the county overreaching is agricultural farm operations may include any or all of the following agricultural related uses and some non-agricultural related uses, so long as the general character of the farm is maintained and activities represent less than 50% of the gross receipts of the farm. Again, why all the county oversight on receipts when a farm is paying federal taxes? Also, local taxes on sales and property taxes. This is a picture of big government by a county looking to bleed every dime they can out of hardworking farmers. We need to protect and help farmers making a living. Environmental acts of God may cause a farmer to lose receipts on a farming income on any given year, and if they need a substituted income base, however, they are punished with threats to rezone their farm, is undue stress from our county. These are stringent regulations with the primary purpose to increase county tax revenue. This is not farm-friendly regulations. We, the people, need to be more involved with every added regulation set by our commissioners and wake up before we are unable to use our own land. Oh, wait a minute, I think we slept too long and lost our right. We, the people, now need to fight to reverse some of these regulations, first being the special event business license that now includes restriction of private land. Next, we have a comment from Keith Glover, also of Dawsonville. Core values for the Republican Party are smaller government, lower taxes, greater personal responsibility, and keeping government hands off private property. Public servants are to serve people, not special interest. Why is Dawson County government moving away from these core values? Whose interest does it benefit to add regulation to agricultural land, forcing rezoning? Is it the purpose purely based on increasing tax revenue for the county? If no, what is the purpose? Next is from Thomas Guerrera of Dawsonville. Why the control of our freedom? What is the reasoning behind having to apply for a permit for more than 10 people? Obviously, you don't want to allow us our freedom rights. Next is from Stephanie Coates. She did not list her address. Dear committee, I have a few questions that I would like to be addressed at the meeting scheduled for tonight. What does the county hope to gain by continuously taking landowners' rights? 2, why is the county trying to impose regulations on agriculturally owned farms? 3, if the land conservation states that a county cannot make stricter laws than CUVA, why is the county going against this? 4, why is it being proposed that your animals on their land is if not more than 5 acres? 5, why is the county looking to make revenue off its citizens and farmers who have been here for years paying taxes? Why did we not make laws of revenues for the retailers that blew up this county to feed the burden of this revenue? 6, will the farms be equal and fairly assessed? Will all the farms need a business license to operate and need report all types of agricultural business? 7, what documentation will they have to provide? Who will verify that information and inspect their property? Will they, the county, have to hire someone or hire an outside source on county funds? 8, what does the county expect to gain by this? Farmers and landowners will move somewhere else doing their farming, then where will our county be? Number 9, where will the current farms be grandfathered, or will current farms be grandfathered in? 10, isn't this unconstitutional to do this to farms? 11, it's been stated that the county has been filmed on camera stating that if the farm makes money, then the county needs to make money. Who can respond to this comment? 12, is the county that insufficient and inadequate on budgeting funds so that we now have to go after agricultural institutions to redeem revenue? Any commissioner or government in office who is supporting this will not get my vote when it comes to re-elect. The people voted you in and they can vote you out. And that's signed by Stephanie Coates. Next is a comment from Joel Kreutzer. I'm calling upon our duly elected Sheriff Jeff Johnson, who has sworn to uphold the Constitution, to refuse to reinforce any of these ordinances that are not voted on by the people and are clearly taxation without representation. Our property taxes or enough actually way too much. We as citizens will be making changes. The next was from Mr. Anderson. He had emailed in. The new ordinances in this land use resolution sound like a homeowners association covenant that most of the county citizens don't want. Are the commissioners willing to reverse course and do away with these and any older ordinances in which the majority of Dawson County citizens show them they want gone? Okay. And next is from Mr. Leyland Anderson. He states, looking at the county ordinances, it's clear that Dawson County citizens have lost many rights to government already. What problems are you trying to solve with these new ordinances? Okay. Next is from Connie Kreutzer of Dawson County. It says, our elected officials are overreaching with their positions. We do not support the new resolutions. We do not need or want more government control. You were not elected to put more burdens on the citizens, but to be a voice for the people. I repeat, for the people. Stop going up on our property tax and stop with the permits and infringing on our rights as property owners. Enough is enough. And last is from Ms. Wilson. What does the county expect to gain by continuously taking away a landowner's rights? Why is the county trying to impose regulations on agricultural zoned farms? How is this fair? Working farms have to start getting a business license. Do they have a right to farm? How do you expect to force all farms to divide up the financial source and expenses of what the county calls agribusiness? If the county land use is being followed, why are you harassing farmers and lying to push your agenda? Will all farms equally and fairly need a business license and/or need to report all types of agribusiness they are doing to the county so that the county can determine if they are less than 50%? What documentation will a farm need to provide? Wouldn't current farms be grandfathered in? Isn't this unconstitutional to do so to farms? Why is our Republican government moving in a direction of more government control? Wouldn't that follow the Democratic Party line? If this is a safety issue, why is the county concerned if ag is not their responsibility and agritourism is protected from the state for liability and lawsuits? If the question submittal closes at 5 p.m. and the meeting is at 6, how do we get additional questions answered that may arise? And then the county respond to the fact that they have said on camera that if a farm makes money, that the county needs to make money. If the land conservation states that the county can not make laws stricter than CUVA, why is the county going against this? And that ends all public comment that were submitted online as of 5.
There's no one else to speak in opposition. If it's something new, if you don't mind.
Well, it has a little bit to do with the.
If you'll please come to the podium.
The questions that were asked, the people that asked these questions, they aren't being addressed. Nobody's addressing those. You just read them, but nobody's addressing any of the questions.
Typically, during a public hearing, that's pretty much, they bring their concerns. I've been a little bit more lenient with this one because I feel like people wanted some answers.
Yes, sir.
So if you've been here in public, we unfortunately don't have time to go through all of them. But I would encourage anybody, that has a concern to be sure they come to the commissioners meeting when this is heard again.
Yes, sir. And that is the reason that I do want to get those things from you. But one of my concerns is that it sounds really good when you say, well, we're going to help people who have 5 acres be able to build on 2 acres. That's really good. That's for the public good. But when you're talking about restricting things, that's not good. So I think that's the concern that everybody is having, is that it's not clear. Things are not really laid out in black and white the way that they really are, and answers really aren't there right now.
All right, thank you.
So that's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? I'll close it to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see, I don't know what the trigger's been. I think it may have been an event that went on at a farm. I'm not on Facebook, so I missed a lot of that, but I'm glad people have woken up to what's been on the books for years. I mean, a lot of this stuff that we're looking at changing is not anything that's been commented on, but I think maybe it does need to change, and, you need to call your commissioners, go to the commission meetings. We just recommend stuff, so. I do have a concern that there wasn't enough time to review the new changes. That is a concern to me, but.
Any other?
Yeah, I mean, we just got it a few days ago.
Yeah.
So.
That is true. I think that some of this stuff could be, I don't know what the Board of Commissioners is planning on doing with the RAC, but I think it could have been handled a little bit differently with just changing RA to where 2 acres was the minimum lot size, like it's been in the past. And you wouldn't have had any of this rezonings for RCA, but I'm not sure what their intent is behind adding this other zoning for that. Because that's, my house is on 2 acres and I'm zoned RA, and we done it about 10 years ago, so I'm kind of confused as to why it's still not okay for people to do that.
Yeah, we bought ours 19 years ago, built on it, and then we went to add on, and they said, you don't have a recorded plat. And that was way before Jameson, but I don't know I don't know how all that happened, but.
I think there's been a lot of times where the ball's been dropped and Jameson and them are trying to fix it, and there's definitely some more work to be done, because I'm not for, more restrictive than it has to be, so. Is there any other?
Jameson wanted to say
Oh,
something.
sorry, Jameson.
I just wanted to point out that, when it comes to the corrective classification, as you remember it was a March, of last year. This board did recommend changing part of the land use resolution to allow for acre-and-a-half lots up to a certain point, and then it would be 5-acre lots. That was ultimately turned down by the Board of Commissioners and denied. So that kind of leads us to, what do we do with those lots that, as you said, that are less than 5 acres? And this is what the board has talked about multiple times, that has came from those discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I've lived in Dawson County my whole life. I've seen a lot of changes. Some I like, some I don't like. Many of you speaking up tonight, I think that's good. It's encouraging to see that, again, as Neil said, that you're actually looking at what the zoning requirements are. Many times we sit here and somebody comes and buys a piece of property and they never even pay attention to the zoning, and then they're upset when they can't do something with it. Again, you need to know what's going on and know what it's zoned. But our county is changing again, and there's some things that we have to change with it, to keep us from making mistakes. At the same time, Jameson has been working hard and trying to streamline a lot of things. And again, I don't agree with everything. I'm not big on the 5-acre thing. I really have an issue with it myself, and I hope that does get looked into, and I hope that it does get reconsidered and possibly get changed, because as a property owner myself of multiple properties, you got a piece of property that's been there for 50 years, and you want to get a plat done on it, and you have to get a variance for it. I don't particularly like that, So there's things that we don't like. But at the end of the day, hey, we're all here to try to make the county the best it can be. And I just want to say, from my personal voice tonight, thank you for being here and expressing your comments.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I motion that we table this, or not make a recommendation. I think that, I don't know if the Board of Commissioners is gonna take it up next month regardless, but I think that there needs to be more time for it to be digested by everybody.
I think what we would have to do is either make a recommendation to approve, or to recommend approval or recommend denial. I don't know. That's pretty much our options here, right? Yeah, so,
Because if we do that, we have to come back and revisit it again. Is that what?
yeah,
Well, it doesn't, whether we recommend denial or approval, the board will take it up.
right, yeah.
Right,
Either way, they will take it up,
Yeah.
so. Or, there always could be a motion if y'all wanted to add something or take something away, but I don't know. That's at y'all's pleasure.
There will be a second public hearing on August 6th when the Board of Commissioners hears this for public comment. So just wanted to let y'all know that there is already a second public hearing scheduled at the voting session for the BOC.
And if you want, you can recommend a portion of it, all of it, recommend only one line of it, or recommend denial of a portion of it, or any changes that you wish to see in regards to this ordinance.
The issue with the 5 acres and the deeds versus the plats, that seems pretty streamlined. That seems like that needs to be done. That opens up the ability for people to build on those pieces of property that they currently can't. Is that correct?
Right. But then at the same time, when you got someone who's bought, may bought the land and intentions to splitting it up in the future, that's a problem
Yeah.
for them.
If it's not split by when this goes into effect, then it doesn't affect. You still are subject to the 5 acres. So that means if somebody's, got 10 acres they want to give their kids 2 to build a house, they have to give them 5,
Right.
which is, I don't agree with.
Does the county, if you sell a piece of land, does the county even know it? until it's, I mean, the whole problem with it was people, you could sell a piece of land and without a recorded plat, the county doesn't even know about it until you record the deed, is that right?
I can't
Problem is when you go to bid.
answer questions on
Right,
on
yeah.
realtors.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, you could still have this happening in the future.
That's what I'm saying, if you got 20 acres and you want to give your kids 2 acres to
Right,
build
right.
on, they go to get a permit to build, they can't.
Right.
Unless it's already been
Right.
platted and before this takes effect. That's the way I read it, so. Yeah.
So,
Do we have a motion,
so
or?
if I may, and I just want to clarify, so what you're saying is you would recommend not seeing the new residential agricultural corrective class, the RAC classification, and instead of that, you're kind of recommending just to remove the 5 acres out of RA and make it an acre and a half? Or 2 acres, or, you know, whatever, a lower acreage? And the reason why we have the acre and a half, and I'm just to go back, is because that was the minimum requirement for a septic tank and a well. I'm just throwing that out there. But is that kind of what I'm hearing? Instead of doing the residential or the RAC classification, just adjusting the current RA zoning classification?
That's what I'm saying.
That's my thought too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be more thought into it before there's changes made.
So is that a denial?
I think it's just making a motion to amend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and that addresses the RAC portion of it. Was there anything that you would like to address when in regards to the commercial portion of having the new zoning classification or any?
Well, I mean, I think there's
Sorry.
concerns about the wording of the alcohol.
Well, that's in the RA
Yeah, right, yeah.
anyway.
Isn't that all bundled as one? It was presented as one thing with 3 branches, so if one section is denied, wouldn't all?
We're just making a recommendation, whatever we do, and then, yeah.
So, absolutely, that's a great question. You
split
can
it
recommend to deny the whole thing all at once, or you can recommend to approve with different stipulations saying, like I said before, the RA, or you can recommend to not hold off on the commercial side until you have more information that if you want me to present to you regarding the need for it, or it's the pleasure of the planning commissioners at this point.
If we recommend denial of all of it, what does that mean? Does it just go before the board after that? So it doesn't matter what we do?
Yes.
So then we should just make recommendations based on what we think, so at least those recommendations will be considered by the board, I think.
Yeah.
Would y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay.
So if y'all want to put that in a motion,
I mean, I'll make a motion that the RA be at least 1.5 acres as required to get a septic permit instead of 5 acres.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
How does that apply to if you subdivide, does that still limit you to 1 lot? Is it per year? Or what is the
If you're subbing it out, I think it's 1 for 3 years, ain't it?
1 for 3 years?
So, we're talking about the subdivision regulations now.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is a separate ordinance.
Yeah, it's different. That's what I knew. I knew.
Yeah, that's why I
Which,
hate to do this.
it basically, in the subdivision regulations, 5 subdivisions or less is considered a minor subdivision, and then if you get to 6 or more, then I'm gonna, or the county is going to require soil and erosion plans and.
Yeah, well,
All
what we're
sorts of
talking about
stuff.
though, what I wanna do is, if you got 20 acres and you wanna give your kid 2 acres, they don't have, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I'm just, we're not writing an ordinance here, so.
Right.
We don't know what it's gonna end up saying.
And that may be a discussion for another update to put a provision in, if that's the pleasure that you're looking at, to putting a stipulation or another part of this ordinance saying that if you're giving a child, that you can give them less than 5 acres or.
Right. And then you may have hardship situations too, where you got 20 acres and you need some money and you need to sell 2 acres of your land to, you know, pay your taxes. So I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want to, it's one of those things where, you know, yeah, exactly.
Well, right now, we've got a motion on the table, I believe. Did you second it?
He did second.
Okay, so,
And what's it say again?
Change it from 5 acres to 1.5 acres.
And I'm assuming removing then if that was the case, then there would be no need for the RAC classification. Does that make sense? All right.
motion carries. This will be heard again, as they said, there'll be another public hearing August 6th. Is that correct? And like, same thing on the rezonings, all this board can do is make a recommendation. It's up to the Board of Commissioners for the final say, so I encourage all y'all to speak with them or to come to the meeting, again.
What about, are we gonna address the rest of it, though?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Doing, what did your motion,
I think that was a specific, another item.
yeah. Yeah, it should have all been one. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. I thought you were wanting to, you didn't want to change anything else but that, right? And
That's all I
approve
was
it.
mentioning.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
correct.
So that's, everything else went forward except for what he stated.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, that's, okay, I didn't know we were doing that.
Was there
Yeah.
something else needed to be addressed?
Well, I mean, I think that, I mean, the alcohol thing is an issue.
So,
The livestock on the land.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've already,
I mean, I was voting on the 1.5.
can we do it separately?
We should do it with all
How does that work? Can we?
Yeah.
we need to, I mean, if, it needs to be wrapped up in one
One motion and
Yes.
vote. So if there's that many
So there's
changes,
stipulations,
yeah.
there's other stipulations I think you're looking at.
So, all right, so if I may just kind of take the lead on this. So we have adjusting the RA to 1.5 acres instead of the RAC class.
Instead of the whole thing. So anything that's in the RAC class, we remove.
Okay.
So the only other two things there would be the wedding venue.
And so, the issue with the alcohol, right? How would you, suggest us
Well, I mean, I don't know.
doing anything different?
I just know the concern that she had about,
He just said that you could take each thing separately, vote on it or against it, and then he turns around and says, you got to put everything in the bond.
Like I say, what we've done here, it goes to the board. So there is nothing
Nothing's approved.
in concrete.
But I think that he needs to separate it, and then next month or whenever the next meeting is, then people can address it individually, and you can vote individually.
Well, it's already
Only giving us 2 days,
been,
or any of it is not right.
like I say, this is coming up at the next commissioners meeting in August. So you've got between now and then to do more research and even talk to the commissioners. Anything that we vote on here tonight is merely just a recommendation.
To take it forward.
Well, we've already had a motion and a vote, so
So everybody came in here and opposed it, and you just.
the meeting's closed to public comment.
Well, that's a good way to do it.
Just hold on just a
well,
second.
none of us are elected.
Yeah, none of us.
And the pay ain't, we don't get much money either, so.
Can we vote on the others? Can we change that, or what do y'all?
The whole county needs to hear about this because everybody in Dawson County is affected by this.
I'm not, I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
but public comment is closed. I don't mean to be rude, but that's just the way the meeting.
Can we scrap that vote?
Yeah.
A new motion can be done, and then we can do one vote unless every stipulation that y'all want on all of it, whether it's the alcohol, the RAC, the commercial, all of that needs to be in one single motion. And it can be stipulated out specifically for each thing that you would like to address.
Well, if we can do that, let's do that.
Let's
If
do
that-
Okay,
I motion to recommend denial, and then we can let the commission take it up. And, they're gonna do what they want anyway.
just to let you know, if you recommend denial, that will go in the records that you recommended denial, and you don't get to do the individual motions on each, if that makes sense. So as it's presented to the Board of Commissioners,
I'm sorry, it's closed to public comment.
as it's presented to the Board of Commissioners, it will just look at as a denial.
Yeah,
straight
that-
across.
Well, I want to table it.
I mean, do we have that?
And we can table it, and they can either take it up or table it themselves, I guess.
I want to say that it was voted on by the Board of Commissioners during it was either the last Board of Commissioners voting session to move this particular, and they had this in front of them. It was presented then, so it was offered to the public then, which was, I don't remember that date. But what I'm saying is, it was voted on then to move to this public hearing and the August 6th public hearing. So there's two options. You can either move to approve it with the stipulations that you are requesting, or you can vote to deny it, and it'll just look like a denial across the board in the minutes that are collected.
Is there a way to pull the vote back, and then let's talk about the three sections and make stipulations? The vote that we just had, because I think there was a thought process we were voting on.
If there's misunderstanding, absolutely. I'm not sure.
There just has to be a motion.
Okay, motion to pull the vote, because I think there was a thought process that we were voting on the 1.5 acres.
Okay.
Second.
And not the whole thing.
Second.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll open it back up to discussion, so we need to do it in one motion, but we need to have our stipulations for each section
Exactly.
laid out.
Exactly.
So whatever y'all's pleasure is on that, we need to,
All right, let's talk about the wedding venue and alcohol. It is my understanding that the wedding venue and alcohol it's an option. In other words, we're not forcing a caterer to have to go get a permit to serve alcohol unless that caterer is going to serve alcohol. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, to me, if you're going to pour alcohol, you need to have a permit. It's just my opinion.
Well, what about I think what she was saying is, can you bring your own? To those
There's nothing that
events?
says, there's nothing, to my understanding, I think if you're gonna bring a caterer in that's gonna serve alcohol, in other words, pour it, I would think that requires a permit.
So right now, as the code reads, alcohol cannot be poured or served in anywhere but a commercial zoning classification. That's the way our current alcohol ordinance reads now. Like I said, we're looking to update that. Anybody with an alcohol pours license is tied to an alcohol license. So, and I'm just going to use Olive Garden as an example. This has no bearing on them, but Olive Garden has a alcohol license. All the people that come in that get pouring permits are licensed underneath that umbrella alcohol license in Dawson County. So
Okay.
this would give them the ability, if they came in, they got an alcohol license, it would give them the ability to have someone that's actually a licensed pourer there to distribute and pour the alcohol. Whether or not they are, they are affiliated with the event venue or the event facility, the wedding venue, or the caterer, they would give them the ability to do that. Because right now, it's
So the people, if somebody's bringing their own right now, that's actually not probably allowed by the alcohol ordinance.
It's not currently allowed by our
Okay.
alcohol
It's
ordinance.
just- And that's a different issue.
I'm sorry, but when it is closed to public comment.
So, I'm just trying to get my head around this. A wedding venue, they're interested in serving alcohol at that venue. This gives them the ability to serve alcohol legally at that venue.
Yes.
You gotta get a permit to serve alcohol.
In Dawson County, you have to have an alcohol license to serve or sell alcohol.
I understand where also this could be a slippery slope issue, you know what I'm saying?
And this is how this is the discussions that were before the Board of Commissioners. And this is what was approved by the Board of Commissioners and legal counsel and how we should address this situation.
And so what you're saying is if right now that someone who owns 15 acres and it's a farm, it's not considered commercial property, they couldn't even get an alcohol license. So if they're serving alcohol by pouring it, then actually they're breaking the law, you're saying?
Yes.
And this gives them the ability not to break the law, right? This gives that wedding venue the ability to go.
Because right now they couldn't even purchase one because it's not.
Correct. Our alcohol ordinance is extremely restrictive.
Right.
Like I said, we're 2 versions out of being a complete dry county.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get it to where what is happening in Dawson County is we're trying to bring everything into compliance. That's our goal with these.
Do you know when that
these
ordinance
updates.
was written, the alcohol ordinance?
Oh, geez. I believe I honestly don't know.
Probably 1995.
Yeah, that's what
I was gonna say, Dawson County was a dry county up, I wanted to say 2001.
2001.
Right.
So it's been that way since then.
Mm-hmm. And that's a possibility, but that's the way it's written now.
Yeah.
So basically, if I own 15 acres and I want to have a wedding venue there and it was considered a farm, I couldn't get a permit. So.
Right now, you cannot get
Yeah.
a permit to sell or serve alcohol.
And nobody's going around checking to make sure somebody's doing this kind of stuff, so I don't understand, at the end of the day, is if you wanted to do it, and you wanted to do it legally, then you could go get a permit. I mean, if you break the law, that's up to you, that's in your own hands, so.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry, we've already closed it, that's just the meeting procedures, I'm sorry.
Like I said, we've poured over this thing multiple times, and this is what legal counsel and the planning department and the Board of Commissioners have come to the agreement on how to resolve the situation, just like the RIC classification. I mean, these things have been discussed multiple times in front of the Board of Commissioners, and this is what the collective unit has decided to address these situations. I'm not saying that they don't need to be further adjusted, but
I just don't know what would be needed to be adjusted. I'm trying to get my head around, being involved with alcohol and as far as regulations and stuff like that. there need, you know, unfortunately, there should, but unfortunately, everybody doesn't, the reason laws and things like that are enacted is because everybody doesn't use a good judgment. And you can't blanket everything being, okay, well, this person had, it's kind of like driving a vehicle. The reason there's rules and stuff out there is because not everybody does the right thing when they're behind the wheel of a car. Not everybody does the right thing when you're gonna serve alcohol. So there has to be some, you know, some things enacted to make sure if you're gonna serve alcohol to people, that it is done the right way. Not because Susie did it right way, that Bill's gonna do it the same way Susie did. There has to be some rules out there to make sure that if you're gonna have a venue and they're gonna serve alcohol at that venue, that there has to be, unfortunately, because it's alcohol and things go bad when people get drunk, there has to be some rules that make sure people are all gonna do it the right way. And so I feel like that is the purpose of this, that if you're gonna have a wedding venue, that you get a permit, that you're gonna serve alcohol the right way, right? So, I mean, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Most of the venues have to require a deputy to be there, or they won't get drunk.
Yeah.
I understand you're being in the business, and I'm just trying to help what else.
I'm sorry, but we are closed. If I let everybody speak again, well, I can't really do that. We'll be here all.
So my question,
Yeah. It is very important, and this is, we got this stuff on Friday. The Board of Commissioners, they have already, with their attorneys, done this, so we're about in the same boat that you are. We're just wanting to get something that we can recommend denial or maybe tweak it a little bit, because like I say, at the Commissioners meeting, they will have the final say no matter what happens at this meeting.
They approved it, but they sent it to you, and then you.
That's the way that the hearing, it has to be up for public hearing so many times. So this is just one of those public hearings. There'll be another one just like this on August 6th, but the Board of Commissioners is the one that will make the final determination. We can say whatever we want to here at this meeting, and they can still take what they will from that.
Come up with what Jameson is saying.
Yes, them and the attorneys is what I'm.
Yes.
They've come up, the Board of Commissioners and the attorneys have come up with this.
I think we ought to deny it just because the commission didn't give it to us.
Absolutely. Any zoning, and any update to the land use resolution is considered a zoning change, which has to go through two different public hearings, one before the Planning Commission and one before the Board of Commissioners. So we treat these updates exactly like the ordinance, a zoning change, which is why I didn't present the update to the alcohol ordinances that we're doing as well, because they don't need to have multiple public hearings. They just have to have one public hearing, so we just moved it straight to the next voting session for.
I motion to deny just because we didn't get it till Friday.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
I guess I want to try to, bring this forward with some recommendations, and if we can't come to an agreement on some recommendations, then that's my question to the board. If we can't take the time, I guess.
Well, my recommendation would be that they take more time to consider the changes.
I can second that recommendation. I feel like there needs to be more time to go through this.
So, motion to recommend that the commission not take action on this without further
Review.
review.
I don't know that we can,
No, it's just a recommendation.
I'm not a parliamentarian. I don't know exactly if that's required.
Just for clarification, one more time, what's highlighted in this is really the only thing that's been changed outside of what's been there for an extended period of time. Is that correct?
Yes, the highlighted portions are the only portions
So-
in residential that has been changed.
Changed.
Obviously, we overhauled the commercial portions, and we've been working on that, and that was requested by this
Right.
board in the fall of last year.
So I want to make a recommendation that, again, if you got the 15 acres and you're going to serve alcohol by pouring it, I think that it should come under the liquor license, and you have to get a license for it. I think that we should go back again to what I recommended about the RAC, scrap that altogether, make it just RA 1.5 acres. Again, I just think that it's overstepping to me. If you got land and you want to give it to your kids, do something with it, you should have the right to do that and not be told by the government that you can't without special permitting or whatever. So I think I want to make a motion for those two things.
What about the commercial component? Would you include that in the motion?
Well, the only changes that have been made is based on what's highlighted here.
Right.
Well, in the added in,
But I just want to make sure we all know what we're
Right.
voting on this time, so.
Yeah, I mean,
That's two things I want to mention.
And
about the
commercial
livestock
portion
issue?
the commercial portion was done. We completely redid the formatting to the commercial portion and added all of those NAIC codes and those charts.
I think we're getting close. What about the livestock issue on one?
That's not
It
not
won't-
an issue anymore, because that's,
right.
if I'm hearing your motion right,
Yeah.
your motion is
RAC.
to do away with everything that's highlighted under RAC.
Yes.
So that whole
deal.
would be gone, and we would just recommend that they change the lot size to, did you say, 1.5 acres?
Okay.
So that would do away with that. And then from what I understand your motion, that's about the alcohol and the wedding venues would be the same as it's written.
Yes,
And then the commercial component, the same as it's written.
correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
What?
May I so just to clarify,
Yeah.
one last time, and I'm sorry if I'm beating a dead horse, the recommendation is to remove the RAC classification and instead adjust the RA zoning classification to 1.5 acres instead. And everything else, the commercial portion and the rest of the portion about the alcohol that was discussed, you're recommending approval on those things?
As written,
Right.
yes.
As written, okay. Thank you.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is L, updates by planning and development. Are there any updates?
So, planning and development has a lot going on, obviously. We're updating multiple ordinances to try to bring a lot of things into compliance. Specifically, that's going to be coming down the pipe for this board is we have several rezonings, including the previous, I believe last year it was called Etowah Village, is now going to be called Dawson Village. And y'all won't hear this until next month, right, Harmony? Which is over 1,000 homes to be added in. We were waiting until this meeting to kind of make this announcement that they have applied for rezoning again. Similar properties, a lot of things to consider. Also, as far as the land use resolution, honestly, we're still not, we're looking to update the commercial portion right now, but we're still really not done with it in a total. And the next step would be to look at the procedures in the ordinance, because there's been a lot of case law over the last couple of years that kind of changed how we look at zonings and how we do these proceedings right here. And we have to update those procedures in accordance with that case law. So this is just the second. We're actually going to do a follow-up to this land use resolution again. And if there's any suggestions or things that y'all feel like y'all want to put in there, absolutely make suggestions. That's how we got these here today, so.
All right. If there's no more updates, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Make sure you show up at the commission meetings.